Hey everybody, how's it going? It's the Daily Shooter, and today we're going to be taking a look at the most expensive but best scope that Bushnell has to offer. This is the Bushnell Elite XRSII 4.5 to 30. Let's check it out. Okay, so here's a closer look at our scope. Now, it might seem a little bit long, and that's because I have the 2-inch sunshade installed. It's color matching, it comes with the scope, and this scope is available in 3 different colors. So the one you're looking at right here is obviously in flat dark earth. They have another one that is in kind of a tactical gray color, and then they have another one that is completely black. So depending on which color you want to go with, you're going to get the matching 2-inch sunshade. All 3 of those colors are going to be available where I got this from. This is sent to me to test out from Optics Planet. They're having a pretty good sale on these, as a matter of fact, right now, and I also have a discount code. If you guys want discount codes, just head over to my website. The website will be linked down below. You can find discount codes for all sorts of places and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and talk about some of these features and details. Now, again, this is a 4.5 to 30 power scope with a 50mm objective. It is first focal plane, which is fantastic, especially for a long-range scope, because with first focal plane, it doesn't matter if I'm dialed all the way down to 4.5, or if I go all the way up to 10, 20, or even 30, I can use whatever ballistic drop compensating reticle that scope has at any of those magnification ranges, unlike a second focal plane scope where you usually have to be dialed kind of closer to the high end and use it at that specific magnification range to use the holdovers. So having a first focal plane scope for long range shooting is going to be great. And this scope right here is perfect for reaching out pretty much as far as you can shoot. So as long as the cartridge is capable of shooting that far, you should be able to see your target and hit it. I mean, at 30 power, you can almost use this thing as a spotting scope. If you want to get some really good detail and zoom right up into the target and see if you have any impacts, you can do it at 30 power. It's a lot. To be honest with you, I haven't even really shot this thing too much at 30 power. I was out there, I think the max that I shot was about 800 yards, and at 800 yards, I had this thing dialed back to about, I'm going to say somewhere in that 24 to 25 power range right there, and that was perfectly fine. I think if I would have went any further to that 30, it might have been a little bit too much magnification, and if you back it off a little bit, you get a better field of view. So still, being a first focal plane scope is fantastic. Now, with a first focal plane scope, you usually end up with a shorter front section in front of the turrets than you do the rear. So what I did is I went with MDT rings. MDT makes the chassis that you guys saw for that 308 action that I was using in the beginning. So if you guys saw that shooting footage, you saw an MDT chassis, and these are MDT rings. And I went with independent rings versus, let's say, like a scope mount, like a forward swept scope mount, because of that first focal plane having that shorter front end. I wanted a little bit more forgiveness in where I put my rings, because as you know, a lot of bolt guns, when they have a Picatinny section, it's usually very short, and so it doesn't really give you all that much play. So this allowed me to put it at kind of the beginning and at the end of my Picatinny rail section to get the mount to fit, because I only have like a mil or two of space between this front ring right here and the adjustment turrets, and that's for me to get the proper eye relief. I had to bring it all the way back, and I had to bring it all the way to the front of my pick mount on my upper, or not upper receiver, but on my receiver. So I had to bring it all the way to the forward right here and almost all the way back to the housing for the turrets in order to get the proper eye relief, and then I could move this one wherever I wanted it. So that's why it's best when you have something like this, especially for long range and first focal plane, to get independent rings instead of a mount where it just gives you a little bit less adjustment. But these are very, very nice rings. Not only is the scope from Optics Planet, but the rings are also from Optics Planet. So you can get this whole setup, this entire combo from them. Now, there is only, that I can see at least, one downside to this scope, and that's that it, especially for the price, it does not come with flip-up caps. It does not come with any type of flip-up cap or cover. It comes with a bikini-style lens cover, which is really more suited for storage in your safe or in your range bag, stuff like that. You know, if you're on the move, if you're a hunter, competition shooter, and you want to be able to just flip down caps, you can't, but it does come with those bikini lens covers that you can kind of just stretch and then pop right on, and they will fit both with or without the sunshade. But with the sunshade on, it just requires a little bit extra stretching in order to get them over the sunshade, so keep that in mind as well. Now, this also comes with a, what I think they're calling it, the hammer throw lever. So it's a really nice kind of elongated throw lever. It's a little bit longer than some of my other scopes, and it is removable. Now, I chose to leave it on, and that's because with this particular adjustment lever right here, or adjustment section, when I'm going through my magnification range, it's a little bit hard. It's very stiff, and it's a little bit hard to do without this lever. This lever allows me to throw it much faster. This thing has 4 inches of eye relief, which is also good. With 4 inches of eye relief, it gives you a lot of space to be able to put this thing in an angle where you're going to be able to get your eye right behind it. You're going to have a good eye box. You're not going to get any, you know, black clouding or anything like that. You're going to be able to get the reticle right where you want it to be, which is nice. So we also have parallax settings, and the knobs on this are very, very nice. So on the top right here, we don't have any caps or covers on either side, but on the top right here, it is free moving. So I can simply take this and I can make whatever adjustments I need, both left, you know, or up or down. And then when I want to adjust for windage, I can come over here, and it is basically a pull to adjust system. So instead of having a cap on this side, all you have to do is pull it out and then go ahead, make your adjustment, and then when you find your adjustment, go ahead and just push it back down and it locks itself into place. But they are 0 lockable turrets. Now, another thing I want to mention is this has a 34mm tube. So if you're looking for rings, you're going to have to get those 34mm rings. Now, back to the adjustment turrets, there's a couple things I want to talk about here. You can see the adjustment turrets are pretty large. They're like a large tactical knob, very easy to grab onto. There's a lot of knurling around the outside of the knob, but they are non-audible, okay? So there is no sound that comes out of these knobs whatsoever, which is perfectly fine. These turrets are very easy to adjust, and they're very, very tactile. So for me, when I'm shooting, a lot of times I double up on hearing protection, and I can't hear the audible click of a turret anyway. So for me, I really rely on that tactile feel of each click, and the detents that are in there are actually pretty good. So as you go through each one of your clicks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth, you can feel that on your fingers, but you're not going to get that tick, tick, tick of the turn there. And so that's something that I wanted to mention, and that's both on the elevation and windage adjustments. We also have on the other side, which is going to be our parallax adjustment. That's going to be the same, but it pretty much just slides through your parallax adjustments, goes all the way from 75 yards to infinity. So if you want to shoot, you know, inwards of 75 yards all the way out to your furthest target, you're going to be able to adjust for parallax. And the other thing is the diopter on this is really nice. It's a very easy, quick to use, easy to adjust diopter so that you can get a nice clear reticle depending on your vision. And it's also lockable. I've seen a lot of diopters that are not lockable, and you can get a little bit of movement. You know, you put it in your case and it kind of gets bumped around the back of the truck and stuff like that. And sometimes you can get a little bit of rotation where you have to adjust again when you're out there using it. This one is totally lockable. So we have 2 different rings here. We have the locking ring, and then you have the adjustment ring. And when this thing is locked, the diopter is not going anywhere. So again, we have a really strong magnification adjustment. We also have the locking diopter, and then a really nice fast focus adjusting diopter there. So everything is really nice quality. It is hard coated, anodized, aluminum body. Everything is really nice. This thing is argon purged, so it's got a really nice clear image. It is waterproof. It's IPX7 waterproof, which means you can leave this thing underwater for, I believe it's up to 30 minutes. On 3 feet of water. So not only is it water resistant or, you know, waterproof from rain and stuff like that, but it is completely submersible, which is nice. So let's just say that you're walking around, or maybe you're going through a competition and there's puddles. You drop this thing, it lands in a puddle. It's not going to bother it at all. Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about what I would consider to be the most important part of the scope. Okay, we all know that when it comes to the body of most scopes, they're all going to be pretty much the same high-end aluminum scope. When it comes to the turrets, there's going to be some small differences across the board, but really it's the glass. It's the glass that makes the scope, and that's actually what sets the price as well, because high-end glass is going to cost high-end money, and that's really what you're paying for. And this has really nice glass, probably the nicest glass that I have ever seen in any scope that I have ever looked through. They call it their ED prime glass, which is their extra low dispersion glass. So when you're looking through a scope like this, especially a long range scope, a lot of times you get really thick glass, and sometimes you're not going to get the best color correction, because when you're looking through the glass, you're not going to see all the colors at the same time. And so when you dial up to the higher magnification ranges, sometimes you'll notice that the colors turn from, let's say you're looking at something that's, green and brown, they start to turn a little bit gray, and that's because it's not allowing all of the colors to make it through to your eye. This right here with the extra low dispersion glass allows almost perfect color clarity and sharpness when you're looking at those longer range targets where you have this thing dialed up. Most scopes, when you're dialed down to the lower settings, the clarity and the color correction is going to be pretty good. It's only when you dial up that you're going to see some of those problems. And with this extra low dispersion glass, it allows, incredible clarity and sharpness and light transmission. It's really something you got to see. If you're a scope nerd like I am, I've been reviewing scopes for the past 7 years now. When you look through this scope, you notice the quality of the glass pretty much immediately, and it has what they call their exo coating on it. Now, the exo coating is pretty nice. It molecularly bonds to the glass. So if you were to look at glass underneath a microscope, there's going to be these small microscopic areas that will allow for bonding of certain coatings and chemicals. The exo coating on this one goes on last. So it goes on last, and basically it makes it resistant to dust. It makes it resistant to fingerprints. It also helps with the clarity and the color correction and stuff like that, but it's an excellent coating. And working with the type of glass that they have, and the basically high-end, top-end glass and top-end coatings, it really does lead for one of the best views that you're going to see through a scope. And I can definitely see why this scope is so expensive. And it's not the most expensive scope out there either. As a matter of fact, it's relatively well priced versus some of the competitors that I would compare it to. If you were to put this up against, let's say, a Night Force with comparable features, I would put it right next to the Night Force, and I would challenge anybody that says, no, that's not absolutely not possible. I would challenge anybody to use a comparable Night Force to this right here and say that there's any difference in the glass, but you're going to pay 2 or even 3 times more for a comparable Night Force optic. It's just the way it is. Sometimes you're just paying for the name. With this, it's, again, some of the nicest glass that I've seen out of a long-range scope. So, again, it's Bushnell's flagship scope, and so you're going to get all of the best that they have to offer. And Bushnell's a good company. They've been around for a long time. They've been doing this for a long time. And so when they put out something that's high-end, I trust that it's going to have those high-end features. It feels very solid. It feels like it's going to be drop resistant. This is definitely not one of those scopes that I'm going to throw around to test out at all, but it feels like a really nice solid scope. I believe it comes in around 37 ounces or so. So at 37 ounces, it's probably going to be just about the same as every other scope that's going to be within this range right here, as far as magnification and, having a 50 millimeter objective lens and so forth. The only thing is, I would say that with the scope that can reach out to 30 power, I'd like to see maybe a larger bell housing, a larger objective, just to get a slightly better field of view. It does have a pretty good field of view, but I still think that, we could do a little bit better. The field of view is basically 24 feet at 100 yards. So if you're shooting out, 100 to 800 yards, field of view is going to be great. Once you dial it all the way up to 30 power, that's when the field of view really starts to shrink on you. But still, first focal plane, 4-inch eye relief, 37 ounces, 14.3 inches on this thing. It is non-illuminated, so for those people that want an illuminated reticle and are looking for that, and that could be the decision maker right there, it is a non-illuminated reticle. It's 0.1 mils of adjustment per click. Again, like we were talking about before, about 30 to 32 mils of adjustment total right there. But yeah, it's a fantastic scope, and I think anybody that's really looking seriously at long range shooting or accurate shooting, you're somebody who's in competition or you want the best shot for hunting, and long range, maybe you're just like me, you're just an enthusiast. I'm not really a hunter, I'm not a competition shooter, I just like to go out there and see if I can do something. This is going to give you the best chance at doing that. Obviously, it's going to come down to your own personal skill and how good you are at pulling that trigger, but it's definitely going to help because it's going to get you right on there and you're going to be able to see the target very nice and clearly. As far as the reticle goes, it's got a fantastic reticle. You can choose from several different types. So depending on which reticle that you want, there's going to be one that's going to best suit you. One of my favorites is going to be the Horus reticle, and you can actually get this with a Horus, I believe it's a H53 reticle. And the Horus reticle offers a lot of both windage and elevation holdovers so that you might not even have to touch the knobs. For me, I like to use whatever holdovers I can. I don't really like to play with the turrets all that much and go off zero that much if I can use a holdover. So for me, I like to use the holdovers. This one works just fine. And for me, I think the Horus is probably going to be the best out of what these offer. But a lot of people don't like the complexity of a Horus reticle because it is kind of a large reticle and it does take up a pretty large portion of the bottom of the scope. But with first focal plane, you're going to dial it in. The reticle is going to become larger and you're going to be able to see some of those holdovers a little bit better, a little bit more close up. And it's such a fine reticle that even when you're dialed all the way up in a first focal plane and it brings that reticle into you, the bars on the reticle are so fine that it doesn't cover up much of your target if you're going to be shooting long range anyway. So it's got a fantastic reticle on it, pretty much everything that you're looking for in a long range scope, and I think that anybody that's looking to buy one of these would be happy with it. So again, this is the Bushnell Tactical Elite XRSII 4.5 to 30 by 50. So pretty cool scope. If you guys want to check it out, again, check my website. You're going to find all your links, discount codes, and stuff like that over there. And I want to thank you all very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please like, subscribe. Have a great day.